I'd like to welcome you to our live case with Matt Bertulli, CEO of Pila Case, the world's first compostable phone case, and now sunglasses, Apple Watch bands, and more. Matt was previously co-founder and CEO of Demic Media, Canada's oldest and largest e-commerce agency. Several years ago, he sold it to Bounteous, based in Chicago. Bounteous is on Inc. magazine's list of the 5,000 most successful private companies in America. He's the author of Anything, Anywhere, a fantastic book on the future of retail and e-commerce. The Pila case material was invented in a university lab. The inventor and founder of Pila approached Matt to help him commercialize the product. Matt has successfully commercialized Pila's compostable phone case. It was quite a journey. He's going to share how he and his team figured out over time who their ideal customer is, ramped up revenues, and then added many new product lines. I'd like you to take careful note of how Matt and his team explored and tested to figure out who their ideal customer is. What you have here is not only a tech CEO, but one of the top marketers in Canada. Jay-Z has invested in Pila, and the company has also done a deal with Apple. Also very important, watch how Matt captured the persona of Pila's ideal customers and ensure that the team is consistently targeting their ideal customers correctly and staying true to that insight going forward. The goal here will be to start to define what customer pains and gains you think you are solving, so you can then go out into the marketplace and test your assumptions on real potential customers. Okay, Matt, take it away.
All right, let's do this. Okay, so like Camille said, I'll give you a quick 2-second background, more about how I got into Pila. I think that's more important. Camille's kind of covered the actual resume part, and I'll kind of go through the last 3.5, 4 years of how we built Pila, into what it is today. So if you just bear with me here, I'm going to hit a few things. So I'm new to Kelowna. I'm new to this British Columbia thing. I've only been here about 2 years now. I'm actually a developer by trade. So for those that are engineers, and I grew up in a family of engineers, and I went into software development really young, about 12 years old. And then I started my first company in 2009. So I ran that one for about 10 years. It got to a little over 85 employees. I think our biggest was about 100. And then I sold it, as Camille said. So wrote a book. Don't know why I did that. That was an awful process. And then invested in Pila in and around 2016. So Jeremy started the company. Oh gosh, I would say 9 years ago at this point, maybe 10 years ago. He came up with the product idea in Saskatchewan at the university. Then he worked with a guy named Bernie. And Bernie was owned a sort of injection molding sort of small shop. And Bernie and Jeremy just hacked this thing to life over 5 years. And then I met Jeremy in and around 2016 at an event in Napa Valley. And he was telling me about his phone case and how he came up with a material that could compost, actually compost, and a home compost, not just the commercial industrial kind. And then as far as this call goes, I'm probably the least educated person on the call. I dropped out of university after 3 months. I freaking hated it. Work is way more fun. So don't use me as an example for school. So Pila, basic brand thesis. I think every brand, every company you need to know what you're going to be, right? And the thing I came up with for Pila was that we make everyday products without everyday waste. We have this mission that is to create a waste-free future, right? And the mission, when you look at all of our copy as I go through it today, words matter. I'm a hardcore copywriting nerd. I think all words matter, and your mission, your vision, these things should, in my opinion, they should be abstract enough that your team and your community and your customers have their own slight interpretation of them. Okay, so keep that in mind as we go through. Our goal as a company is to keep 1 billion pounds of waste from hitting the waste stream by 2028. That's about 4 of these, right? 2,600 of those. 20 million penguins. And this is how we talk. Like we try to make it super relatable. If I just say 1 billion pounds of waste, people are like, what the fuck is that? I'm like, oh, that's 20 million penguins. They get that. So let's talk customer. The whole Pila like experience and journey thus far, we're a customer first company and a customer first brand. And I know Amazon says that. A lot of companies say this. Almost everything we do starts with like, what is this for? Like, who is this for? And most importantly, how do we want that person to feel? Right? Because feeling, how they feel is the most important thing when you're thinking of like building a product or a brand. And I like to show this. This is a little old. We're quite a bit bigger than this now, but we've continued this hockey stick curve up into like the multi 8 figures of revenue. And most of that is direct to consumers. It's people that come to us and buy. But this green circle shows you kind of like in and around that I started investing in the company, there was like almost no revenue. You know, that $1,000 over there in January of 2015, that was for the whole month, right? If we don't do $1,000 in an hour now, I like lose my shit. So the ramp up, everybody likes to focus on hockey stick growth. There's this long period before you ever get to hockey stick growth. And oftentimes it's years. And Pila was also in this thing, even when I was involved. And the reason for that was we hadn't figured out who our customer was yet. We had a cool product idea. I liked it enough to invest in it, but we didn't know who it was for. You know, so we set about experimenting, like, let's find this person, right? We came up with 5 personas. You know, we tried to describe who we thought would buy this thing. And then in and around this point, we kind of nailed in like, who is she? Okay. When you think customer avatar, I call them personas. I don't want you to think like demographic. I don't want you to think 18 to 24, male or female, you know, Caucasian, none of that shit. Throw all that crap away. That stuff's like very basic. You know, how do I figure out who my customer is? I like to get into the, like, let's talk about a day in the life of, in our case, Olive. Like, this was our girl. At the very start of Pila, like, she was what we call the zero waster, this new movement. You know, they try to live their lives with as little waste as possible, reusable everything. But you can see how we outline her whole day from when she gets up to when she gets home and goes to sleep. And then beyond that, we go into like behaviors and beliefs. Like, what does she actually fundamentally believe in? And again, this is why age doesn't matter, because that's not what you believe in, right? And your sex really doesn't matter either. What I'm going after is I need to understand somebody's beliefs, and I need to understand what they're passionate about or what they're scared of, because then I can think about how does that person want to feel, right? And if you know how somebody wants to feel, you can tell them stories and give them products that elicit that feeling. And that's the importance of knowing your customer. I'm a big fan of like every company should start with one. You know, if I see a brand or a company and I'm looking to invest in something and they've got like 3 or 4 different customers, I typically stay away. You know, especially early stage, it's just lack of focus. You know, I like one product, one customer, one channel, one core message. It's like the law of 5 ones. You know, just keep it super simple. If you want a really great essay on this, it's Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans. I think it's like early 2000s when he wrote that. He was the editor of Wired Magazine. The guy's a freaking genius. And he talks about how, like, to build a company, you really only need 1,000 true fans ever. Like, that's your core. And taking it a step further, like what we do with Olive is we look at, okay, so if we know how she wants to feel, everything from when she becomes aware about us to when she buys to keeping her loyal, now we can lean into those feelings, right? And that's why the customer is so important. This has like allowed us to build like just an Instagram following of 564,000 people, an email list of 1.5 million people. We have like 700,000 actual paying customers in this brand now in Pila, across all of our companies, mostly because we're super anal about only ever talking to Olive. Every piece of copy we write for her. We think about like, how would she like to receive this message? What words would she use? Hell, even the way I hire, like Pila as a company is filled with young women that very much are Olives, right? They live their lives the same way that our ideal customer would. And this is like one of my fundamental beliefs, right? It's 90% of your problems are marketing, 10% everything else. You know, if you think 90% of your problems are product related or operations related, you're so wrong. Especially if you're looking to build a business, right? If you're here to build a business, it's all marketing. So when we get to this hockey stick stage, now we're starting to grow. Really what we're talking about is like, what channels am I advertising or marketing in? Am I adding more avatars and when? And am I adding more products and when? You know, so for early stage Pila, we didn't think about another avatar until we were probably, 10, $15 million a year revenue run rate. Then we started to say, okay, well, who else in and around Olive matters, right? The reason we focused on her so upfront was she was super loud. I like customer personas that will take your story or stories and talk to their friends about them. You know, you want that kind of customer. Chip Wilson once told me like the reason Lululemon was so successful was that early days yoga people were like vegans. They wouldn't shut up about yoga, right? And that's the joke, is like, how do you know somebody's a vegan? They tell you. That's what you want, right? So every avatar then that we went and added, so you can see Olive over here at least on my left, we started looking at like the next ring out, like what would Olive look like if she was a mom? What would Olive look like if she was a vegan? What would Olive look like if she was into yoga? And it always hooks back up to the core. And the reason for that is I don't like writing 5 different types of copy for multiple different customers, whether it's business to business or consumer. I like my team to only ever be communicating in one voice. Okay. And then we do this for every single avatar. What are they interested in? What do they value? Right? What are they reading? Where do they shop? All that stuff. Very little. Over here on the left, you can see the demo stuff. You know, female, 32. This is where she lives. The most important stuff is like, what causes her concern? So for moms, you know, we market a lot. Moms buy on fear, mostly, like fear for their children, and you can lean into that. So we look at like, you know, our cases are BPA and phthalate free. Yes, they're eco-friendly, but they're BPA and phthalate free because those 2 things scare the shit out of mothers. That's why it's important to know that you're marketing to a mom, for example. Same thing with the younger customer. We go through this every single time. We do this for the dudes too. Like we have a male version of Olive, right? And then once we know who the customers are, then I go out and we say like, okay, what channels are best used to interact with Olive? In our case, Instagram was the one that started it all. And then it mostly becomes Instagram, Facebook, email, and then a little bit of YouTube and Snapchat and TikTok now. But I sort of stay away from a bunch of other stuff. Again, I got a limited number of resources, can't be everywhere all at the same time. Then, so customer avatar, product channels, then you can start talking about, oh, I got all these other cool ideas of what I want to do for product. I like to show this slide because it shows you we spent for the first 3 years, up until 2019, last year, we almost added no new products to this company, right? And in 2020, look what happens. I have to move this little, screen thing. We added AirPods cases, watch straps, phone grips. We bought a personal care company called Habitat. So it's deodorant, shampoo, conditioner. We're launching a pet brand. We expanded out the product portfolio because we started to acquire critical mass of customers. And to grow the business beyond this point now that we know our customer really well, we're listening to what they want, right? Here are the things they're asking for. So it's taking this create a waste-free future mission and taking it into other categories and doing brand expansion. But we did this last, right? And now that we have this, I'm going back to step 1 and I'm saying, How do I now iterate on the whole business? How do I look at additional customer avatars, lining up product launches with those customer avatars so that every time, like everybody in this company, every time we launch something, they know exactly who they're talking to and what language, what matters to them, what problems, pains, fears, all that stuff. Always think in terms of emotions. Most engineers and inventors think the whole world works on pragmatism and logic, and that's utter bullshit. 100% of human beings make all of their decisions based on emotions, no matter how much they try to rationalize it. 100%. Okay. If you do it right, lots of mentions, press, community grows. What you're really trying to do is build community. Okay. I'll leave you with a few things, then I'll stop talking. I like to go really wide in what I'm reading about. So like I read about all kinds of different industries. I study different businesses. And the reason for that is we're people. Everybody's a person, right? We're all humans. We all take our inputs from lots of things. So like right now, I read a lot about politics in the US because I need to understand what's going on in the head of my customer, right? And then I practice narrow. I believe in minimum effective dose. I preach this a lot. In the startup world, you guys hear MVP, minimum viable product. That's like really common. Minimum effective dose. The best way to put it is water boils at 100 degrees. It doesn't boil at 110 or 140. And it certainly doesn't boil faster. Like just get to the point where you're doing something where you know that like this is the dose that gets me the result, then iterate on top of that. Don't worry too much about like the viable product. Okay. Focus. This comes back to the like one customer, one product, one channel, one everything. Simplify the shit out of your business as often and as early as you can, because the more rabbits you chase, the less you get. And the last one, and I think this is sort of speaks to what you guys are doing now. I believe that your network is your net worth, like fundamentally, right? So all of my best ideas are stolen and all of my mistakes are somebody else's. And that's how I want to live. Like, I don't want to make any big fuck ups. I want somebody else to make them so that I can learn from them. So I invest a lot of time in meeting and talking to other people. I bet you I spend at least 10 hours a week, even during COVID, just being on Zooms with my network, learning about what's working for them. What are they into? What's new and interesting? And the reason for that is like, I just want to hear what's working and what's failing so that I can better navigate myself in this business.